Hi guys, so Chris Loder is a Tory MP, he's also a Brexiteer, and in this video while he was in Parliament he's going to criticise the Labour Party for taking their marching orders from their union paymasters, and he's also going to criticise the European Union for its standards regarding annual leave and paternal leave. So let's hear what he had to say.
Loder. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I would like to declare that I am not a member of Unite or the GMB trade union. And when I was elected, I thought I'd left the union meetings behind on the railways. But no, today it feels more like I'm gate-crashing a 1970s union meeting in the House of Commons. So socialism is definitely alive and well in today's Labour Party. But here we are.
Is that a problem? Socialism is alive and well within the Labour Party. I don't see that as a negative thing. The Labour Party are generally on the left, so they should be looking after workers. They should be looking after the rights of the general public, the working class. Is that a criticism that Chris has?
We are again. This is another example of the Labour Party, rather than addressing the issues of the day, just...
The issues of the day? What, are workers' rights not the issue of the day? The conditions that people on zero-hour contracts, is that not the issue of the day? The fact that many people who are doing these zero-hour contracts are exposed to the pandemic, they're on the front line of the pandemic. Is that not the issue of the day?
Just wanting to stay wedded to the European Union. The EU position on employment rights, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is worse than the UK's by a country mile.
Now, the reason why he's saying worse, it's lower, but there's a reason for that. It's because they set a minimum standard. When the UK was a member of the European Union, it had higher standards on a whole range of things than the European minimum standard. So basically he's saying, because we have a higher standard than the minimum standard is a problem. Then why wouldn't he lobby why wouldn't he and the Conservative Party lobby when the UK was a member to increase the standard? But they didn't do that. So it doesn't make any sense. Then you would assume that it's now that you're no longer a member, you would increase the standard. But you haven't increased the standard. All of the indicators are that you're going to reduce the standards because you're talking about taking away protections for workers. Many Brexiteers voted for that. But let's continue.
Yet Labour wants us to be bound to EU standards. Maternity leave, 52 weeks in the UK compared to just 14 in the EU.
So 52 weeks in the UK compared to 14 in the EU. But of course, this is the minimum standard. So let's have a look here at the UK for paternal leave. It says 52 weeks mandatory for the mother, up to 50 of the remainder can be transferred to the father as shared paternal leave. 90%, so regarding the pay you receive for the maternal and paternal leave, 90% for 6 weeks, 90% with a maximum for 32 weeks unpaid remainder. Now, we can see a member of the European Union below, Ireland, 42 weeks, 80% with a maximum for 26 weeks, and then unpaid remainder. But if we go up, and this is sorted by number of weeks, you see Estonia, which is a member of the European Union, has 62 weeks, and pay is 100%. So the situation in Estonia, which is a member of the European Union, is higher than the UK and is higher than the European baseline. So what does that say? Well, it says two things. First of all, the baseline is just a baseline. So whatever the UK has, even while it was a member, is irrelevant to the baseline. And it's not actually the highest in Europe. Estonia have the best conditions in Europe. But let's hear what else Chris has to say.
Annual leave, 28 days in the UK compared to just 20 in the EU.
Now, he says 28 days annual leave in the UK. I couldn't actually find, I did a bit of research, but I couldn't find exactly where he got this 28 days number from. The closest I could find was 20 days from the UK, which is beaten by 26 in Luxembourg and 25 in Austria and 25 in Denmark. Actually, in Finland, 20 to 25, Germany 20 to 30. These, of course, depend on different things. But even if the 28 was correct that Chris is saying, which is not here, Germany beats the UK. So once again, if the EU have a minimum and Germany has higher, that means that the minimum is irrelevant. And the UK beating the minimum is irrelevant as well. So either Chris doesn't understand this, or Chris is pretending not to understand this. Which do you think it is? But let's continue.
I could go on.
Don't go on, because you're not making a very good argument here. Your argument is basically the EU have a minimum standard, we are higher than the minimum standard, along with other countries. So why would you want to have a minimum standard? You know, you could campaign while you were a member of the European Union to increase that standard. You say, look, this standard is way too low. We want to defend workers. We want to have workers have much better standards. Why didn't you campaign for that? Now, your response could be, well, because, you know, the European Union is a big entity. It's difficult to move all the countries along at the same speed. Okay, I accept that. But you are free to have a higher standard. Why was your standard not the highest in Europe? If you care about standards. Like, your argument is we should have higher standards than the European Union. But if Estonia has a higher standard when it comes to paternal leave, and Germany has a higher standard when it comes to annual leave, then your argument sort of falls apart, Chris.
So we should ask ourselves, why has the Labour Party really brought this motion to the House today? I think it's because their union paymasters are pulling the strings.
The union paymasters are pulling their strings. Now, I want to show you, this is publicwhip.org.uk. It's a collection of votes that have taken place in Parliament. And I did a bit of research on Chris. And Chris is an interesting character. If we go back to the 20th of July 2020, there was the trade bill with the new clause 17. In this clause, it says international trade agreements, protection of the NHS, the health and care sector, and public sector workers. How did Chris vote on this? Well, he voted against it. He voted no. To protect NHS care and sector staff and public sector workers. So Chris has just given you an explanation of how the Conservative Party care about workers, how the Labour Party want to wed the UK to minimum standards, and it shouldn't be minimum standard. There should be no minimum standard. I'm actually struggling to understand what his argument was, but he's not making a very good case, and his own voting record demonstrates that he doesn't really care about workers. He's just grandstanding, and he's just trying to criticize the European Union and criticize the Labour Party for what? Standing up for workers' rights. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?